Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett, your Soccer Talk co-host, sitting alongside my good buddies, specifically Blake Sievers, my other co-host, and then we've also got the Titan tactician, Matt Sahag here. Matthew, Blake, how are you doing today?
Good.
I'm also good, Ben.
It's a chilly one out there, isn't it, weatherman?
It is record lows, but we're inside down here in the lair. We got our green, like your Kick It Forward green there, Ben. Here's
right.
our YouTube plug. But I don't know if people are tuning in to hear about the weather. Are they?
I doubt it. So interesting one for you guys a little bit today. When those that know what we do, we tend to sort of react to what's going on around us, and so there's a new soccer product out there on the streets here in Des Moines, and it'll be in direct competition with one of our favorite things, which is high school soccer. And so we were just sort of interested. We kind of learned about it and wanted to chat about it a little bit. And maybe before we start, I'll go ahead and raise my hand. Like I am hypocritical. Like I have criticized high school soccer pretty harshly over the years, specifically when I was like 18 and in my 20s. But I think now that I'm firmly in my 40s, I've got a little bit of different perspective. And I think high school soccer has a really, really cool place and a really good place, and also like a really valuable place, I think is probably the word I should use, for players' development. That's just what I think. At this point, I don't think I would have told you that when I was 25. So, just a little self-awareness. So just so you know that I'm not a total psycho.
Yeah, and I think just what we're talking about, right? So Sporting Iowa came out with a proposal pitch to their U15 and above girls, basically to offer club soccer in the spring instead of doing high school soccer. And through the ECNL Super Copa, and that's kind of the topic for today.
Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think anytime you look at player development, or at least I look at player development, I think you make assessments based on what's appropriate for the individual player, right? And I know we're going to get into a lot of it, but that's what it ultimately comes down to here is for the Iowa player, like right now, in 2025 and 2026, based on what's happening here in Iowa, and then even on a larger scale, like where do Iowa players fit, and what's the best environment for them? And just traditionally, I think on the club side of things for the last 20 years, from my end of things, and we've always been chasing everybody else, right? We're very reactionary in the state in terms of chasing what the next league might look like. I remember when I first started coaching, it was the Midwest Regional League, and then that diluted because lots of teams started coming into the Midwest Regional League, and that was part of USYS. And then we had this sort of change, and the U.S. Club Soccer started up, and we get then out of that comes the ECNL, and then kind of amongst that, then we had the developmental league, like kind of through the MLS structure, and so now ECNL has built up. And I think over the last 25 years since I've been in town, there's been a number of pushes to get players to play just for their clubs as opposed to with their high schools. And so, I mean, I think since the proposal's on the table right now, it's a good time to examine, I think, just what the state of soccer is in Iowa, and talk about what truly like actually gets you to where you think you may want to be based on what can be offered here in Iowa.
And maybe, Sievers, why don't you tell us a little bit about the league, but also from the standpoint of, both you and I, when we were in high school, went through a similar, like there were opportunities for us to not play high school soccer and try and go a club route, or, vice versa, and, just focus on high school soccer. But I think we came up with some different solutions for that when we were that age. But I don't know, talk a little bit about the league, because I don't know that everybody knows what.
Okay, so ECNL has created what they call Super Copa, and basically it's a
Super Cup.
Super Cup. I was reading the Spanish version. Sorry. Basically, it's a regional deal where there's a central portion where you've got teams from Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City that have gone and said, "Hey, we are going to offer this." I don't know if it's a league because they don't keep score and there's no standings, but this alternative maybe is the best way. So the clubs that have work with the players, that 9 to 10 months of the year, which is a little bit longer than currently. And then there is like an East Coast and a West Coast, again, division or separation where they're doing the same thing. So it's kind of a regional type deal.
And this was stuff you researched and found online.
Correct. So yeah, so they just said, hey, you can have, again, clubs have a little more control. The proposal is, 3 weekends of official events where college coaches come in, some friendlies on top of that, and then, like I said, 5 to 7 days a week, 4 to 7 days a week of club activities specifically.
And really, I think it's the way they marketed it is it's like the college recruiting grounds is what they're saying. Like if you're serious about playing in college, you should be a part of this league. I think that's what ultimately it's getting at, right? Anyway.
Yeah, and then there's a boys version as well, which at the end of it, I mean,
it hasn't been introduced yet.
Yeah. Well, they do. Yes, in
But
Iowa.
I'm saying it hasn't. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, proposed yet. Yep. So I don't know, Matt. You want to get into just kind of talking a little bit about what we know and ideas?
Sure. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, right. We know that you're a major proponent of high school soccer. You're a coach at Dowling. There's been an email thread going around, right, with like the high school coaches, kind of talking together about, maybe expressing some frustrations that they weren't consulted about this kind of stuff. So you've just been in the thick of it for a little bit now, just, talking to a lot of people and learning about it. So, you've got a pretty educated opinion.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and obviously it's not going to come as a surprise to anyone that I've got, I'm not in support of
as a high school
player.
coach, that would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. But it's more, it's more than just my position there as the head coach at Dowling. I think there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't make sense for Iowa players at all. And I think, and obviously those are just my opinions, but so there have been even and at Dowling we've got some girls in the team that are affected by this, right? So they play their club seasons at Sporting Iowa, and so now they've been approached for this program. So it's something that obviously we'll navigate and talk to those players about to see kind of where they're at and what they like, and giving them our opinions. But so anyway, as I know it, Sporting's had some different talks and some presentations. Just explaining what this looks like to their player group. And so we saw or got a hold of the presentation that just was put on this week. And so I watched that and looked at that. And there's there are a lot of areas that jumped out at me, but there were kind of 3 specific areas that they were pushing in terms of, and this was Trevor Neary, who's the ECNL sporting director, also former Ankeny assistant last year, former former Roosevelt head coach, former assistant Roosevelt head coach on the boys and the girls side. And so there were 3 kind of main areas that I grabbed or I was able to kind of glean from the presentation in terms of why they say it was it's a program that the girls could consider. And so that's what I want to address today. So number 1, they talked about how the programming that they would set up would mimic, would be more identical or more similar to the collegiate environment. That's the first area. Second area is they talked about collegiate exposure and how, if you want to get recruited, you've got to go to these ECNL events to get identified by these college coaches. And so if you're a player who wants to go to college, this is how you get your exposure and how you kind of get your name on the recruiting radar for these schools. And then third, they gave an example of a player who was recruited through the Super Club who came out of Wisconsin. And so those are the 3 areas that that I watch and have just got some feedback on. And so really what I wanted to do is say, okay, so here's what the proposal is, right? Here's what the proposal is coming from the club. Does it match up with the data, or what is the data behind that, like from my perspective, for what I view? So Trevor talked about the how it mimics the collegiate environment first. So maybe we can just watch this real quick.
Skip ahead to the intentional periodization. So when you look at the environment that we'll put out, it's much more like a collegiate environment. So the complete training session. So when you hear or see complete training session, I view that as it has to hit one of a few things. So, or two of a few things. So for it to be a complete training session, there has to be a physical aspect of growth. So whether it's fitness level or whether it's strength or whatever it may be, injury prevention, whatever it is, but there has to be some element of it. There has to be some element of technical growth. So intentional, specific, real, not just like 5 minutes of a rondo or 10 minutes of a passing pattern, like real, specific, intentional, technical detail that is well thought out and part of a model, not just a random day-to-day, let's just do this, let's get better at passing today. And then the next day, and then you don't do it again for another month and a half. Well, they're not better at passing. And then competition. There has to be some form of competition, whether it is physicality, a score, or whatever it may be. And then there has to be tactical growth. 2 of those 4 things have to happen for it to be a real training session, a complete, full, holistic training session.
So that was the pitch on. I think there's a couple different aspects to that. Is like what I heard from that was we're marketing this program to say our club experience more mimics the collegiate environment, and it's because of a number of different things, but specifically then the content of how they're going to set up their training sessions. And so this one really stuck out to me, and more so because I disagree with the kind of the concept he was putting out about what is a complete training session. First of all, it's a novel sort of thing to me. I've not heard of that. I've not heard of sort of this idea that you need these 2 components to be a complete training session. I think for me, anytime you look at like teaching methodology or youth development, you always go back to what the 4 pillars of the game are, and that's technical, tactical, physical, and psychological. And so, and we had some debate about this over text this morning, but for me, you can't decouple any facet of the game from any activity, right? I mean, so if you think about just the concept of a kid going out in the backyard and kicking the ball against a wall, right? You have, number one, the internal motivation or the drive. And is the kid enjoying it and doing it because he or she loves to or doesn't, or because they're being made to, right? There's a psychological component there in terms of their motivation, or are they happy or are they sad, right? There's a technical component in terms of, are they kicking the ball? They're using their technique to kick the ball. There's going to be decisions in terms of how hard they pass the ball, right? Do they play with the ball with the outside of their foot? Do they receive it with the inside of the foot, receive it with the outside of the foot? Do they stop it? Do they let it roll through their legs, and do they turn? There's going to be all sorts of different decisions that they make related to that technique, which is what tactics are on a very fundamental level. There's going to be a physical component because you're using your body, right? So that is what the 4 pillars of the game are. And realistically for me, and I can just say that the way I set up training sessions and the way I observe training sessions is you always have those 4 components in every single thing that you do. And I don't think you can set up a training session with just 2 of those things. Now, you can have different areas of focus, right? You can say, hey, we're going to work on technique more so here. We're going to work on something different. But the general setup in saying like, hey, we're going to set up a framework of sessions for complete sessions that are based on these 2 things, that stuck out to me. And because I couldn't get there in terms of like buying into that, what was being said there. And I think so and I just look at then, okay, so he hit on a number of different topics there, right? He talked about technique, he talked about competitiveness, he talked about tactics, and I think there was one other one. But as I look at it, I mean, how is that different from what everyone gets in high school? And I can just show you a couple different examples at Dowling that we did with the players. If you want to talk about tactics, one of the real benefits about high school is that you've got the facilities right there, you've got the students right there, and you can do game video review. You've got the video cameras built in to all the stadiums, and so we would do video review and tactical analysis after almost every game. And I've got a clip here just of the analysis that we did after a Johnston game.
The difference here, and the reason why it's a good decision for Maya to turn, is she's got no pressure on her back. So no pressure, turn. So I like that. Now, as she turns, watch where the strikers are running. Everyone's running away from her, right? So when you all run away, there's nothing to pass to here. And if you watch the defenders, all they're going to do is they're going to drop off. So there Maya's turn with the ball. The striker's running that way, both of them. And then every single Johnston defender is running that way. So what you want to do here in this situation, instead of running away, is just stand still. So if either one, it could be Abby or Bree, if you just stood here and got at feet, Maya could find you. You could play it back to her. What's going to happen then is that's going to engage the Johnston opposition this way, and the next pass is on to go through. So it's just up, back, through.
So that's just a little example, and I think you're gonna chip in here, Ben. But
I was just gonna give a shout out for our YouTube. So if you want to see what Matt was talking about, so you can understand fully what was going on, check it out on YouTube.
Yeah. But I mean, I agree. But like that is the tactical component, right? That's a team tactic. And if you look at just that little clip, and you can dissect it, and maybe you agree with it, you disagree with it, but that was loaded with the four facets of the game right there, right? And it was loaded with technique, decision-making in terms of playing the ball forwards, decision-making in terms of turning because you didn't have pressure. There was a selection that was being made by the strikers in terms of do they stand still or do they run away? But that is a really good snapshot of the type of progress that you can make tactically in the high school game based on the resources that we actually have, right? And so my point here is that, I mean, it's happening in high school. And I know that other coaches are doing video review. It's not just Dowling. Everybody's got these capabilities because we have to share it week to week. And so, and the other thing is, that's a pretty simple concept, right? For high school girls. That's a concept that high school girls should know, but we need to work on it. I mean, when to stand still, when to receive at feet. I mean, why are the two strikers just running away? That's a simple concept that needs to be addressed. And so when you look at, tactics, and he talked about the difference between team tactics versus a different type of tactics, and I don't know the difference of that, but it's happening at the high school level, right? And one of the other things that they mentioned on the clip was how they understood that they needed to work on their preseason stuff, right? That they made the argument that they have bad results in the beginning of the fall season because they need work on their preseason. Well, one of the things we do at Dowling, and I don't want to give away all our secrets, but we go
Carlos Aspie over here.
Yeah, we train at 6 a.m. Under the lights in the stadium right away. And so last year we worked on tactics at 6 a.m. and I've just got a little bit of a clip here. But what we were looking at, and by the way, this is a session that touched on all facets of the game. So we played 11 versus 11, right? And then what we did is we addressed some issues in central midfield, and specifically what was happening was we were playing with two central midfielders, and they were playing far apart, and they were playing square. And so what was happening? They were getting penetrated. So here's just a little clip that we worked on tactically, and then sent out.
Can deny the supply or the ball into the striker.
What we have a tendency to do, right? Everybody in the team is when someone's on the ball, everyone moves forward in the field. So just watch this, move forward. See how easy that is? Okay, so play it here. Show me how you fix that. Perfect, right? See that? So now same pass comes in, she's won the ball. Is it hard?
Very simple example, right? So, but again, that's what tactics are, and I want you to think about the setting that we're in, okay? Because this whole concept that they were putting forward is that the club environment that we're going to put on is closer to the collegiate experience. But look where we are. We're in a stadium. We're on turf, right? We're in the morning. We've played 11 versus 11 with an entire squad in a game format, and now we're breaking it down piece by piece to put together our team, and it's a true preseason just like you would have in college.
And then you're going to go to class afterwards, and you probably had breakfast probably at school, probably went to class, had lunch at school. You probably had to be prepared for your whole day when you left in the morning, which is very much what it's like to be. Right. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in club soccer, right? It's just a reverse. Maybe you go to school and you do your activities and then you have to get to soccer practice, but it's not the same community, right? You're in the same community all day in this scenario.
Yeah, and by the way, then guess what they did after school?
They got back together and trained.
We trained again. So you had 2 days. So and all of us played college soccer, right? I mean, this is exactly what happened at Drake in preseason for the first 10 days. And we had a runway of about 10 days to 2 weeks, just like you would in college. So the similarities are actually the same. So the next piece I looked at then too, because there was, the Super Club, the folks talk about how, well, in the high school season, you really only get, it's like a game and then one good training session, or one complete training session. So then I thought about that. I was like, well, what does the season look like for a collegiate athlete, right? How long is the season? How many games do they play? And so I just pulled then Drake's schedule, right? And so
Women's team.
Drake women's team, right? So and I created a little bit of a chart. So Drake, I counted from their first game until the end of the season, it was 97 days, right? They played 19 games in those 17 days. So that's an average of a game every 5.1 days.
19 games in the 97 days. Sorry,
Right.
Matt,
Yeah, sorry. So then what I looked at is, well, okay, so in between games, what's the average day of rest that they have? It was 4.74, right? So then I looked at our Dowling schedule, and
Just to be clear, right? You're talking about, so between the first and second game, there was 2 days rest, then there was 5 days rest, then there was 3 days rest, and then there was 4. So that's how you're coming up with that number.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, so it's five games on average, but it's a little less rest per day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you get exactly. So then I did that so then I took what our schedule is going to be like in the spring. So if I go, basically we can train. I think it's March. I had it down to March 17th, all the way through. I picked May 31st because that would take us through the end of like the sub-state final. That's what we did last year. So that'd be 78 days. We would have 16 games in that time frame. That would be at 4.9. So you would play a game every 4.9 days. So we're
very similar to college.
It's almost identical.
Your rest is a little
less.
A little less.
Yep.
But they're a little younger.
Right. So then you look at sporting schedule, which would start with an event March 13th and 14th, which, by the way, that event is right in spring break. So they would have 78 days. Now, they said there were 10 to 14 games that they were going to try and schedule per kid. So I used the low end. Well, if you only play 10 games, now you're playing every 7.8 days, right? So, when we talk about mimicking the college environment, well, what's closer? It's actually high school. And then
your
the
average rest is the thing that
so,
sticks out.
And so this is your average rest now is it's 1 day. It's less than 1 day, but based on the calculations, it's one, because you're going to play a game on a Saturday and a game on a Sunday. And so you're going to have to turn and go back to back. Now that's no rest. That's basically virtually no rest. And I remember when we used to play college, we would play Friday, Sundays. And that was really tough.
Yep.
So again, what is more mimicking the collegiate season? Is it high scores at club? The other thing I thought about is, well, what are you playing for? In college, you're playing for a national championship. You're playing for the conference championship. Well, what do you do in high school? You play for the conference championship. You play for the state championship. That's what you do. In the club league, we've got state cups and different things like that. What you're really doing here is you're playing, for recruiting events. And so again, what mimics the collegiate experience? It's high school.
Well, and you're also,
go ahead, Ben.
Well, you're also playing, like for your community in a different way. And I think like Sporting Iowa's making a valiant effort to create a community, and like by trying to have their players coach some of the younger kids and what have you. But the reality is like the amount of kids that you talk to and you ask them like, well, what's your aspiration with soccer? A lot of them is literally just to play varsity soccer at their high school stadium in front of all their friends, because that's like it's a pretty cool thing to get to do. And all your friends, like, well, they play football or they play basketball or whatever, and you've gotten to see them do it. And you don't get recognition when you just go play on the weekend with your club team. What's it like in college, though? Well, yeah, it's the same community, right? Like you're going out and you're going to class, and it's like, oh, hey, you can also come check us out on Friday, right? Like I think there's a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, the part that sticks out for me is the competitiveness. You're not keeping score. So like you've got
I just
kids
hope that's
now,
not true somehow.
You got kids, it's not. You got kids that are not winning, trying to win, right? And then, of course, they're going to keep score in their heads. They're all going to know the score. But, we talk about it. A lot of kids nowadays just don't win because there's this thought out there that winning is not part of player development. We've harped on it forever, like it is. And weird that kind of, I wonder why the soccer player in Iowa maybe is just not as strong. I think part of it is just kids not learning, not knowing how to win. And so now if you're going to go for a whole spring season without no competitive games that you need to get a result, then, right, think about it. If you're going to a corner when you're winning, right, to kill the game off. So now you get in a habit on that all fall. In the winter when you go to the showcases, and then all spring, like what would you do? Is a coach going to tell you to go to the corner, or are they just going to say, hey, keep going? And then the college coach, that's where I get lost on
Contradiction for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's a decent segue with some of the things we've been talking about, which was another area that they gave an example of. So they gave a specific example of a player that benefited from the Super Cup in terms of how she got to North Dakota State University, and how there was a local team in Iowa who thought they had her locked up. And so I'll play the little clip in how they lost her over the Super Cup.
That's the big piece when we looked at it, and highlighted by a college program that didn't put a lot into Super Cup last year, and why a lot of college programs are paying more attention to the Super Cup now is a story that a college coach local to us said that they basically last spring or last fall had a commit locked up. They knew from FC Wisconsin she was going to commit to them. She was just getting through the fall, gets into the spring, foregoes high school, plays in the Super Cup. North Dakota State ends up going to the first game in St. Louis, loves her, has connection with her, develops a deeper connection, and keeps coming to all the games, right? So throughout the entire season, they went to every event, so all three of the bigger events, and then they went and ran multiple training sessions at FC Wisconsin for that team. By the end, they said that the player probably had 7+ connections with North Dakota State, and this school did not go to a single one of the Super Cup events. End of the spring, she commits to North Dakota State.
So I've got a number of different thoughts on that, but obviously what they're trying to say is, hey, these college coaches are going to go to the Super Cup, and this is how this player was there. So there's apparently a local team who lost this player, and my first reaction is, well, why didn't you go run training sessions at FC Milwaukee for this player 7 times, just like Regan did, right? So my whole thing is, okay, well, so is that the way this player gets to, the players are going to have to get to North Dakota State. And so immediately the person who popped in my mind was Isabel Garcia, right, who we know really well, sure. And who we probably all coached at some point. I know I coached her quite a bit. And she's involved in Kick It Forward a lot. And, obviously the Garcias are good friends of all of ours. But, Isabel is a redshirt sophomore at North Dakota State, and she transferred from Indiana State. So if you look at what she did, she actually started at Johnston High School, right? She grew up in JUSC, played at Sport in Iowa. She went to Johnston High School, which is in the largest class here in Iowa. Well, as a junior, I believe, she then said, I want to go to Des Moines Christian. So she took her high school playing career to an A school.
Yeah, 1A.
1A, the smallest class, won the state championship, and then got a scholarship to play at Indiana State. Obviously, she didn't work out there for her. She wanted to transfer. So what happens? Well, Regan picks her up in the portal, and she comes to North Dakota State. So which pathway, so to speak, resulted, I think, in more playing time? So we just looked it up. So I was able to find this player who I believe from FC Wisconsin. So it looks like her name's Kate Vandenberg. We don't know her other than she looks like she's a freshman. It says on her bio she's from FC Milwaukee. So if you look at the stat sheet, this year she played in 5 games and for a total of 131 minutes. So she got some time as a freshman, right? So then if you go compare that to Isabel.
Great picture, Izzy, by the way.
Isabel played in 16 games, started 9 of them, and she played 735 minutes over the season. So, that is a direct example of players who are only 1 year apart, where you've got one kid who did it all the way through high school and actually decided to go play a 1A school in a less, arguably less competitive league, and has now played at 2 Division I schools and is getting 7 times as much playing time as the freshman who chased, the Super Cup, right? And so I'm not saying that it was a bad decision for this player to play in the Super Cup. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is I don't see how...
It's definitely not a bad decision to play high school soccer,
playing in high
as
school,
well. Right.
In fact, arguably, it's what Isabel needed at the time, right? And so this is the other really important factor here, I think, is, and something I'm thinking about a lot is, where are these college coaches actually recruiting? And are they really recruiting high school students at all anymore? And I know it's happening, but if I'm a college coach, I'm in that portal, I'm looking for someone with a year of experience like Isabel, and I'm bringing her into a program. She's had some college games under her belt, and I know she can contribute right away. And so I'm almost thinking that, is it more important what you do at whatever school it's at as a freshman in college to get picked up if you want to be a transfer later? And if there's even more value in thinking about it that way, versus do I need to get in these club environments, in the things like the Super Cup? But on a larger scale, right? If we look at the Drake roster right now, Alana Pennington, right? She played at Centennial under Chris Allen, getting a lot of minutes. She's also transferring from Western Illinois. I think she transferred as a junior this year. Isabella Balsley, right? Got a lot of time. She's a sophomore this year. She played Johnston High School. Zoe Mahoney played at Joaquin Northwest. She's been playing like every minute since she was a freshman.
She's got 2 ESPN top 10 goals too.
Right, exactly. Grace Smith, right, is another. She's a senior this year. She didn't quite play as much this year, it looked like. But she was a player that played club in high school in Iowa. I might be missing some other ones. But, for the schools that these players are actually going to, right, they're all playing high school. soccer, and it hasn't been a detriment to them. And so the question is, what is the marginal, or what is the value, and is there anything more than just a little bit that you're going to get out of playing in the Super Cup? Because if it's recognition, right, that you're looking for, traditionally we're seeing these kids go all to the same schools, right? It's over and over and over again. And so I don't know what going to all of these events does, and I think this is going to be a good segue in the next topic in terms of what the actual exposure looks like. But for me, it's like, if I'm going to travel to Seattle, Washington to play an event where there are 60 to 100 coaches, does that actually matter that they're all just there? Like, or am I going just to be there to say I was there?
I think we'll see that, won't we, here?
Yeah. So good segue, right? So the next piece then was.
You have something, Ben? Sorry,
No,
Matt.
no,
Okay.
no.
I know I'm dominating this. It's
okay.
The whole conversation, but so
I have to interrupt you occasionally.
No,
I
you
just
you
haven't. I just haven't recently.
So here's the next thing that they talked about that separates the Super Cup from the high school experience, and it was collegiate exposure.
And the last piece is collegiate exposure. So what we've recognized in conversations with a lot of the club coaches in the Super Cup, as well as a few of the college coaches that we've reached out to at the Division I level primarily, is the national events are actually not as beneficial in the spring as they are in the fall. So in the fall, the national events are important for us because it's basically, as a college coach described, the way to get your name on the whiteboard. You have to have your name on the whiteboard to have the ID camp mean something, to have the next game they attend mean something, to, like, so on and so forth. Your name has to be on the whiteboard.
So it's interesting to hear that bit from the presentation about the whiteboard, right? Because you know that all those college coaches, like, they've got a whiteboard and there's all sorts of names all over it. And it's true, you want to get your name on the whiteboard. Like, that's what this is all about. And then, hopefully getting recruited in the spring, depending on the time of year and what age and all that fun stuff. But
yeah. So I guess then the question is, like, obviously, how do you get on that whiteboard? And I think we heard from the sporting folks is you got to go to these events. Number one, in the fall, that's how you get your name on the whiteboard. And then the way they described it was, then if you're going to play in the spring, well, that's the time when you get your name circled on the whiteboard, right? Because then they're going to have seen you once, then they're going to want to see you again, and so you get identified in the fall, and then circled in the spring is how they presented it. So, I mean. So I think that there's then some real questions that I've got about, again, the event selection, and then, like, do you have a chance, even if you're there, of getting your name on the whiteboard, right? Like you can go. I'm trying to think what the analogy would be, right? Like I can go to a really crowded stadium and no one could ever notice I'm there, right? Maybe that's the analogy, right? Like.
when a tree falls in the woods, nobody's around, does it make a sound?
So then the question is, okay, so, like, what is drawing these college coaches to the games that you're playing in, right? And then what games are they selecting? Because there's probably some top players in the country at this event that are playing other teams that are really, really good. So you're going to get a team out of, Illinois versus Texas, or something like that, and college coaches are going to flock to those games. So the question then is, are they coming to the Iowa games too? And the way they kind of set that the Super Club set this up was, they say, well, we traditionally don't perform very well in the ECNL at the beginning, because we don't have the players for the 16 weeks preceding it. And so we've got to do some work on the preseason. But, really what it sounded like they were saying was high school's in the way. And so we don't have the players. And so when it takes us a season to get to a place where then we can win at the end of the season. And so they say, well, we actually perform better at the end of the season in these national events than we do locally. So I just pulled the data then for the girls' event, the ECNL Phoenix event that they went to. So November 14th to the 16th this year, Sporting took their 2009s, 2010s, and then the 08s and the 07, 08 group too, out to the ECNL event. And so if you look at their standings in the season, right, as compared to the Phoenix results, they did have better results. And so then the question is, well, is that really because of high school, or is it because of is that because you've now had 2 months of your season, and so you've had the kids for 2 months, and so now they're prepared to win these at these national events, or is it more reflective of the competition that they're actually playing? So, that's obviously something that everyone has to decide. And I didn't see the competition, but here's what I'll tell you: what the data is. So, for the 2009s, they played the Dallas Texans, followed by Santa Rosa, and then San Francisco Elite. Okay, the Dallas Texans, if you look at where they fell in the standings that year, they were in 14th place. Okay, they had 2 wins and 9 losses, and so the Sporting 09s, they drew with them 0-0. So right away you can say, okay, is that because we grew throughout the season, or did we play less of a team, right? In the Dallas Texans. The second game,
at first blush, hearing that you drew Dallas Texans sounds great.
It does, right? But they're down the table in their league, right? So Santa Rosa, then they beat them 3-2. Again, like, how did they fare? So they're in 10th place in their standings in the league, and they had 1 win and 7 losses, right? And then they played San Francisco Elite, RL, and they beat them 3-0, right? So here you have a 2009 team going to a college recruiting event, an elite event, and they're playing a regional league team, right, which is the second division team. So you've gone all the way to Phoenix to play a regional league team. Now,
Maybe they're a good regional league team.
Maybe, but they beat them 3-0, right? And this regional league team, they were in 14th place in their league.
Well, and the good segue to this is that then the Sporting 2010s played San Francisco Elite.
And crushed them.
Correct.
Right. And it's another regional league team, right? And they're in 18th place. So I just created a little bit of a table for the Phoenix results.
I was going to say, we can go through all the results, but
Yeah.
I think it's better to just show your table and you can get a good snapshot at it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the teams that Sporting played down there, if you look at their collective results before they came in the league standings, they were 17 wins and 55 losses. So, it brings up, I think, 2 questions. Number one is, and I think it's less related. You're playing teams here, obviously, that are more in tune with your level, except for these lopsided results. So there's not much value in going to Phoenix and beating a team 15-0, right? Or losing 5-0 for that matter.
No, but there are other 2 games, right, that look like they might have been okay.
Yeah. But the question for me is that what's getting your name on the board, right? And then how many coaches are actually at these games? And so you've got all sorts of things, right? So what time was the game? I mean, if you get an 8 a.m. game in Phoenix with a college coach in November whose season just ended and staying at the Westin and spent the night in Old Town Scottsdale the night before, like, you think that coach is coming to an 8 a.m. game? I don't know, but I mean, so stuff like that matters though,
It's
right?
realistic, yeah.
And then also, like, if I go into a new town and I say, what's fun to do? Is there a sporting team? And I'm in Milwaukee and I see the Brewers and the Brewers are in first place. I might be like, hey, I might go to that game. If I go to, a different town and
Chicago to watch the Bears.
well, except for this year, they're good. Last year though, I'm like, I don't want to watch the Bears. They're in last place. So, I think, I don't know what the college coach mentality is, but my question is, are you visible if you are a bottom of the league team table in your own league and you are playing a regional league team or not? And so that's just a question. I think those are real important questions. So if the whole idea is to get your name on the board, you've got to get your name on the board first in these national events if you're going to get circled later, is what I'm hearing from the presentation. And so I think it's something you've got to think about, right, as an athlete that's going to these events. So we did get some data from the boys event. And so one of because the boys went to Phoenix as well, And this is the only data we got, by the way. So there may be other data out there that is showing better for this, but it was a showcase recap for a boys player out of Iowa who played at Sporting and went to the ECNL event. And they gave him a recruiting analytics, and they told him how many colleges attended his games that weekend. And it's one checked in.
We also saw him shut down the best player in the state last year during the high school season, mind you, who is like a full-on contributor to D1 program this year, since we're not naming names and stuff.
Right. And then seven colleges flagged his games, but then it said that there were 302 college coaches that attended the event and 203 different programs. So, I mean,
that's like crazy numbers.
Right. I mean, that's
if only 7 colleges flagged your game and only 1 attended it, and then you want to know who was that one? Was it like,
right,
somebody from Iowa who just stopped by and was like, it's the Drake coach or it's the Simpson coach or whoever, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. It's great that they went to go. Like, that's a great way to get a connection to your player. But if that's the only person that's coming to check them out,
right? So then you say like, okay, so am I? I think these are questions that have got to be answered. If this is the data and the analytics behind it, and I'm not saying don't go to these events, because I mean you've got to go figure out how to get recruited. And I actually, my personal opinion is that it's indicative of the larger problem with the youth development system. And I think, to be fair to the Sporting guys, they're trying to put together programming for their own programs that meets the needs of their players, but it just feels like we're always chasing like this elite status when we don't have elite players in our state for the most part, right? We just don't. And
elite is such a loaded term too.
Right.
It's so loaded. I mean, so I was just thinking about, okay, it's this time of year, it's end of the college soccer season, it's NCAA tournament time. And, we just saw like Grandview, I think they just advanced to the semifinals, on the men's side, which is super cool. And there's I think it's Peyton Chapman, who played at Valley, high school player here from Central Iowa, is playing in that team. Like, what a cool experience. I'm like, who else is having that experience? We know Andrew Heckenleibel is playing at St. Louis University and logging minutes, starting games, contributing. And I think they're also in the Elite Eight. That's what these players are really truly chasing. Like, I hope that Andrew Heckenleibel plays professionally, or some of these young ladies that are playing college soccer find a way to play professionally. But like, the reality is high level college soccer or low level like professional. That's what we're producing from Iowa. Mm-hmm. So if you get a chance to play on that stage, that's a really cool accomplishment. But I don't think that, of all these people that we're talking about, I don't know how many of them had a similar experience. They all did their own thing. They all found a way to do it on their own. And I don't think that like a club is going to just magically pick you up and take you.
Right.
Or high school program. Or anyone. I know it's all about you as a player.
Yeah. Well, you think about it too, like we've mentioned all the players that we know that have played like, Division I or like, like that's like the 1% and 2% of the Iowa player too, right? So then you've got the rest of the masses who they're going to go to Grandview, to Simpson, to where to William Penn, to wherever it is.
We have a lot of great schools locally in Iowa that you can go to and participate and have a really good time and be successful.
Right. And so then the question is like, do you need to go to national college church events to be able to get recruited there?
Probably not.
I don't think so. And so but this is like the broader, I think the decision that people have ahead of them, and for me it's like, well, okay, so if it's like, let's just say even though you're getting you can get exposed that way, my question too is, why can't you get exposed without going to those events? Why can't somebody pick up the phone and say to Mike Regan, we want you here 7 times, this spring to run training sessions? Or, Lindsay and Kevin Brennan, certainly they're picking up Drake players, right? We just named off a lot of them.
Yeah.
Vincey at Grandview is at high school games. I saw him all the time in the spring.
Yep.
And so, so I think, you know, the other big piece of it too is every kid that I've talked to, not every kid, but most kids love playing high school soccer, right? And there's a huge piece of enjoyment out of it. And and you know, the sporting guys aren't disagreeing with that.
No.
But you know, do you want to give that experience up? And if you're going to give that experience up, what is the benefit that you're going to get to it? And is the benefit is it tangible? Is it realistic for you? Number one, and then is the probability of you getting that result, is it measurable in any way? And I haven't seen that either, right? Like what is the likelihood? If I'm a consumer, I know it's different when you're dealing with your kid, but I'll tell you, I've got a 1-year-old, right? And I'm really turned off by youth soccer right now for my kid. Like I want him to play golf or like pickleball, right?
Tennis, let's say tennis, not pickleball.
Because I mean, I've got to look at this, and it's not about the money, right? Because when you're a kid, you just obviously it's just different, right? Because and I haven't experienced it on this level yet, but I'm starting to think. So I'm gonna go to Phoenix, right, for a weekend, and I'm gonna pay for a plane ticket for me, and let's just say it's my son, and we're just going together. Well, there's $700 right there, right? Then I'm going to stay at a stay to play. And so I got to pay, I don't know, $250 a night at least, right? Maybe 300, maybe more. And it's a 3-day event, so I got 4 nights there, so I'm $1,200. So I'm $2,000 into it already. Then I've got
food.
I've got to rent a car, right?
You got to feed your heathen.
I've got feed. So am I spending $2,500 on this event? And then am I going to do that for 4 years? That's $10,000 on this one national event. What is the probability of me getting my kid's name on the board?
Also, where does your kid want his name to be? Like, what board does he want it to be on?
I don't think they even know.
Well, they might not, but okay, you were in Rockford, Illinois. Like, you couldn't have only been looking at Drake. Drake was not the only place you looked at, correct?
No.
And generally speaking, where were those places?
It was around Rockford.
Okay. So I, on the other hand, I wanted to get the heck out of Des Moines. That was my whole goal. So I was looking at places. I had Kentucky, I had New Hampshire, I had Brown, Western Illinois was fairly close, and then Drake. And I did not want to go to Drake because I just wanted to leave Des Moines. But I was making an effort to go to events so that I could potentially get recruited in those places, like on the East Coast, because that's where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So if you made me go to Phoenix, and none of those coaches that I wanted to go play for were there, it makes no sense for me to go to Phoenix. It doesn't make sense for me to stay in Des Moines. I need to get to events on the East Coast. So if you're going to go to Drake, you don't need to go to Phoenix. If you want to play at Wisconsin or Indiana, or you want to play at North Dakota State, you don't need to. It's the Midwest, where they're right here.
Right.
And a lot of kids, they want to go to the Midwest so their parents can come see them play, so they can get home easily on the holidays. It all makes sense. I mean, and look, here I am. I went away, and I'm back. So,
right.
Here's
another thing for you. So there's a girls' event down in Kansas City this weekend too, right? It's gonna be 27 degrees at kickoff. For the 8 a.m. games, who's coming to the? I mean, maybe they're all gonna roll out of bed and go to those games early. I don't know. Maybe the coaches. I'm not giving them enough credit, right? That they're workhorses. They're gonna go. But isn't this all on video now too?
I mean, I think that's
my other question for recruiting. Why are these coaches traveling all around the country to go to these events? If I'm a college coach, I think I'd probably, this weekend for the Kansas City event, I'd probably fly to the Caribbean
and just stream all the games
and get on the beach and with my
I think
drink and watch the games.
The recruiting is it's a two-way deal, right? It's like seen and be seen, right?
Yeah.
Or see and be seen, or however you want to say it, and or however it's meant to be said. I should say. But these college coaches, they're probably not. You're right. They're probably not getting up for an 8 a.m. game to watch an Iowa team and a Kansas team play, and whatever.
On a
But-
Monday? On a
yeah,
Monday.
But I would guess that if there's a player that's really, really, really good and that they've been courting the whole time, they will, if they don't go watch their 8 a.m. game, they'll show up at 10 o'clock and say, hey, sorry, I missed it. I had something going on. I had a meeting, but hey, I'm here for you. And it sounds like to me, I think that ends up being a little bit more of this is like if a program that you want to go see is there, like, I mean, some of the stuff that we didn't talk about, like, are these players being coached to like walk up to the coaches and talk to them? Are they sending them direct emails? Are they cutting up their, like, is there I didn't see anything about, hey, this is how you make a clip for yourself so that you can send them to college coaches and get recruited. There's just little things like that I mean, when we were kids, it was, hey, get the big book of college soccer names, right? You had the big book and you looked everything up and you sent letters to everybody and you hope that they came to watch. I mean, that was when you had to get them to watch you play. And then you had to go to the camp. You couldn't send a video. Now, I mean, it's all right there. It just doesn't it doesn't track to me. It's more about the relationship, the connection. So, like, if the coach is there to be like, hey, Matt, I saw you play, you should be like, oh, this is pretty sweet. That's great. But if one coach comes to watch you play and they don't even say hello.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't Blue Chips.
Yeah. The other thing I think about, too, is, again, my mind's going to money. And I know it's a different equation if it's your daughter or your son and he's in this recruiting process and, money maybe becomes secondary or, for a lot of people. But think about the amount of money you have to spend these days to get a college scholarship in through soccer, right? You're paying now, let's just say it's $3,000 a year in club fees, just in fees alone. So, and that starts at, let's just say it's
say 10
years old. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 9 years.
Okay.
That's $27,000, right? You got to buy uniforms and stuff like that. Let's just tack on another $3,000 for the time. So that's $30,000. The travel now is substantial, right? I mean, it easily doubles it, if not more. I mean, I've heard of families now, spending over $10,000 a year on one kid, right? And so then the question then is, okay, so how much money in return in scholarship dollars are you going to get from that? And I'm talking about athletic money, right? Because these kids are all smart. Like, I mean, I coach the Dowling girls. Like, there's no kids in that team that aren't smart. They're all smart.
They're
At least I think so.
Quote jocks. They're not.
I'm just saying they're all smart, so they're going to get the academic packages from the schools.
Sure.
Like, so at Drake, I just remember, like, if you had a certain ACT, you got like $10,000.
Yep.
And then you stack that with athletic money. I mean, I know that's how I put my package together. So really what you're talking about is for all of these college search events you're going to, right? And if you're looking at this as a financial transaction, what are the athletic dollars that I get out of this? Like, you got to be wanted, first of all, by a program. And I know that's a big part of it. But the reality is a lot of these kids, even when you hear them signing with the big Division I schools, the athletic money may be 25%. It might be less.
Yeah.
It might be, hey, you got your academic aid, and you can come on the team and you can say you've signed with us. But, I think I'm sure there are families that have a spreadsheet that are looking at the amount of money that they're spending and saying, is this going to pay off financially? It's going to pay off for their daughter in terms of, I think, just experience, social value, all that stuff, in some way, shape, or form, I think. Whether she uses the experience for her benefit or something to learn from, either way. But like, when you look at the return on the amount of money that you have to spend, it's become obscene. And again, this is not just unique, I think, to what Sporting's offering here. I think it's just,
yeah, it's definitely not just
the system is just broken.
Correct.
And I'll just add in here, we've got a $200 activity fee to play soccer at Dowling,
which is $200 more than most public schools.
Right. It might be.
I mean, we heard from a public school, a wealthy public school, and they said that there's no fees to play.
Okay.
So.
Well, so for the activity fee at Dowling,
but let's say it's $0 to $200, still.
Yeah. I mean, that gets you your bus transportation, and all that stuff.
You were talking about the length of the season. It's the same length.
Yeah.
You're getting similar amounts of contacts, all that kind of stuff.
Can I give a little Dowling plug here, like, while I'm at it?
You're going to do it.
So I was thinking about this, right? So if you want to play in the Super Cup, there's going to be a fee to that. I think they quoted like between $850 and $950, right? So if you look at Dowling's tuition, if you're like a parishioner on their website, it's like $11,000. Well, you get the credit right now, right? It's like, which is like almost $8,000. So let's just say roughly it's $3,000, right? To go to Dowling if you're Catholic. I mean, if it's a little more if you're not. So you may have to make this math work. You got to become Catholic. I think that's how it works. But
I would just pay the
anyways.
extra.
So the difference then is, you could go get a private school education in Dowling for only like $2,000 more than what they're offering for the Super Cup, because there's about another $1,000 plus all the travel. So it may even work out to be. So that's my like kind of shameless plug here.
It's very shameless.
Since I'm on the platform here. I mean, if it's purely about money, you know.
Well, and so let's pretend for a second that it's
you're
not.
gonna spend.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend doing the Super Cup stuff.
Let's pretend for a second that it's not about money.
It's not.
And because,
I know.
well, no, let's just pretend it's not.
Okay.
Because it definitely is. But Blake would be mad if we didn't talk about this. You know, the reality is, like, this is a cool idea. I genuinely think this is a cool idea, and we've been wanting to do it for at least 20 years around here. Maybe, no, Jesus, 30 years, let's say, because I forgot how old I was for a second. So they're going to have 2 rosters full of players between U15 and U19. So it's 36 players that are only from a single club playing together. You're not talking about the best players in the state. You're not talking about best players from other clubs joining you. And you're talking about 2 full teams. So, like, you know, if you're like a low-level 15-year-old player, you're just going to be playing with like 15 and 16-year-old and like the bad 18-year-old that wanted to sign up, right? So, like, it would be super cool if this was a program that was literally meant for the absolute top 1% of high school players throughout the state, and it was the top 18 players, and it wasn't based on what club you played for. It was based on like, oh, this player is objectively one of the best players in the state. I think that would be really cool and really positive, because you would go to these events and your name would definitely be getting circled on the whiteboard, and because you'd be playing with
Better
players.
chance.
There's definitely a chance that you're getting your name circled then versus, when you're going and you're beating RL teams. Like, nobody's coming to watch San Francisco Elite RL against Sporting Iowa. That's just unlikely, right? Like, you're not like, ooh, that's a tasty matchup. So I just think
it wasn't.
No, obviously not. I just think that if when we were in high school, we tried to do that and it got shot down by the parents because of the politics and all that kind of stuff. But you know what we did? We took our ODP team and we organized it ourselves. We found a coach and we paid for his flight and we organized it. The kids organized it. Our moms helped us for sure, but like we were literally the ones being like, okay, so we've got the best 10 guys from Central Iowa, but like we need some guys from the eastern side of the state. So then we're calling up the Iowa City High guys, the Iowa City West guys, and we went to a couple events, and like I know at least a couple of us got recruited from those. So like, was it valuable? Yes, but I think it was more valuable from like the leadership standpoint. Like, and I don't know. That's just my thought on this. Overall, when I say that, it just goes back to like, dude, these kids have to figure it out themselves.
You could pick, you could pick 3 events throughout the year, just the whole calendar year, right? And take the top 18 players.
Yeah.
And you could not ruffle, you could not take away from anyone's club. You could not take away from anyone's high school, even if one of those events was in the middle of the high school season. Totally. You could just say, hey, look, I've made the top 18, so I'm going to be out of town.
And you go, best of luck. Have a great time. We'll see you when you get back.
Right. It's
almost like treat it like a national team or something like that, or it's an actual, it's a true state select team as opposed to just like, hey, can you pay the fees? Can you make the commitment?
Yeah, because it's all about the performance too, right? When you're on the stage, you got to perform, and you're depending on your team performing too. I'm almost wondering if there's like a diminishing value.
Well, to go and get smacked around is not going to help you, and go beat
to
bad
go around
teams is not going to help
to
you.
go play a 15th place team. How does that help you, right? You're putting yourself on a level of a team at the bottom of the table. So like, I'm trying to, like, if I step into the shoes of a college coach, going to one of the events. Like, maybe there are programs that are like, I'm going to all the bottom of the table teams. I mean, maybe they do that. I don't know, because they know they can't get the top end. I don't know.
Yeah, but don't you want like the 15th player on a good team versus
Well,
like?
right.
I mean,
Right.
right.
I
mean,
can't get number 1 through 5, but I certainly can get 12 and 13.
And those guys are competing with 1 through 5 every day.
I think that's how it works, right? Even if the Iowa players are actually better. And that's why, like, I think you've got to be. I'm on board with what you're saying about you've got to put the best team together to get the value you need out of these recruiting events, because otherwise you don't get circled. And I'm worried that you actually are potentially doing more harm than you're doing good.
So also, I think like high school, and I'm terribly biased to the men's boys side, just because it's what I watch more of. But let's just use Mendez or like Johnny Mendez or Landon Benj as examples from last year. Johnny Mendez scored like 30 some odd goals in high school soccer. Every time we watched him play, he ran the game, he affected the game, he typically would win the game almost kind of on his own. Like, oh, we need a goal? Okay, well, give me a few minutes, I got it. And to me, as a college coach, I'm looking at that going like, give me that. I don't care if everybody's terrible. He wants to put the team on his back and win.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Landon Benj, we watched him do the same thing. And then you watch these boys, for Drake as freshmen, what are they doing? Playing, contributing, getting in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, if we flip over the boys' side, and again, all credit to Pat Flynn and
for
Kyle
sure.
Smith, right? Those guys have said, we're going to go get Iowa players. And they don't have to go halfway across the country to do it. They're all right here. We went to several games this year. Mendez had a really good freshman season. I would argue that Benj had a better freshman
sure he
season.
did.
Like, Benj was phenomenal as a freshman at Drake. Please stay, both of you guys. I'm not saying that they would leave, but like, you can have a fabulous 4 years at Drake. Both
Yeah,
those
you guys
guys
are going
can.
to be studs.
You look at who's the Iowa City kid, Jack Dancer.
Yep.
Came on, got great minutes.
Went
great
from
time.
a contributor to a starter by the end of the year.
Yeah. You look at who's the left back, who's just steady. Schraggy's not a freshman, but like just steady.
Yeah,
like
Jackson Kirsch.
Jackson Kirsch got injured, it's like, unfortunately. So,
But you also, like, you're talking about like the main players in the Drake team. You've got Chase Wakefield, Preston Kipnusu.
Yep,
like,
exactly.
I mean, we just literally can go on and on. These are all guys that played high school soccer, and maybe the sporting guys would come back and retort that, well, we're talking about the girls' side, not the boys' side. But I do think that it's similar, because we could do that. We could go through the. I just don't know the names quite as well on the girls' side.
Right.
You know them a lot better, but there's great examples all over the place of kids that played high school soccer and translate it into good college programs. And I just do think, like, if you're a college coach, you want to see the way that those kids act in big moments when there's a bunch of people watching and they have all the pressure.
Right.
Nobody's watching you play on Sunday morning against the San Francisco Elite RL team. Like, your mom and dad are there, maybe.
Right.
Hopefully. Maybe not, though.
yeah, I mean, I went to, on the boys' side, Iowa City West versus Dowling, right? At Dowling, right?
Yeah.
Great
I remember.
game.
It was a great game.
Like, that's as good, like that competition level, the stakes, the desire, what it meant to those kids. Show me a game you can get in club in that.
Well, and we went
atmosphere.
and watched it. We went and watched VSA
Yeah.
Rush play Sporting Iowa on a Friday night
Mm-hmm.
under the lights, and it was a good game.
Right.
But I mean, it was not the atmosphere, and I don't even know that it had the same bite to it that some of these high school games have.
Right. So then let's talk about then real quick, back to the Drake, and I know this is about the girls, but the Drake guys, because actually the Drake women had a great season too. So we're talking about now two programs who are playing in mid-majors, right, in the Division I level, who are having at the top of the conference, and the conferences aren't as strong as they used to be, but they're still at the top of the conference. Drake lost to Western Michigan 1-0, who then went deep into the NCAA.
Like two or three games in.
Deep in the NCAA tournament. So we've got Iowa kids who are playing in high school who are then going deep into the tournaments. And the Drake women got upset. They should have won the Missouri Valley, and it would have been an opportunity for those girls to go into the NCAA tournament. But everyone's doing it, and they're doing it playing high school soccer. And so I'm just,
And you're doing it playing high school soccer in Iowa too. By the way,
right.
No offense.
Here's the other point I have too is what happens, right? So I think they were going to want responses from these kids like
soon,
which is why we got to get this published soon. Little probe for our
Mr. Biceps there behind the camera.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought.
Oh, you're just thinking about his biceps.
Yeah. They want what was I going to say? They want a response on this soon. Oh, here's my point is this is what has happened over and over again. And I think this is really important for every single girl who's considering playing in this club Super Cup, whatever it's called. There will be players who are interested today. It's a sales pitch that has happened
it's true.
over and over
it's
again,
so
right?
true.
And if history repeats itself, and I think it will, you will have players say, yeah, we want to do it now, but there will be nothing to keep them and hold them accountable to staying true to their decision and staying true to everyone else in March. And the pressure will start coming from their friends, from their coaching staffs, from whoever it might be. Internally, it'll start coming. From alumni, it will start coming.
You're totally right, man.
And
totally right.
Players will start to say, well, I want to play for my high schools. The other thing is, they're all going to go on spring break together. So they're going to be primed to come back for the high school. But then also, what happens in the first couple of weeks if they don't like the club? They're going to be people that are going back into high school, and it's happened over and over again. This has been tried.
True. This has happened multiple times over the years.
Yeah, there have been very few teams that have pulled this off, and I think there was a team that did it a couple of years ago, right? But they're back to playing high school soccer.
Yeah.
So be cautious. I mean, I think you got to think about that. If you are going to make the decision to say I'm not doing it, do you still have your position in your high school team? Number one. What if you go out for a year and then you try and come back the following year if it doesn't work out? And the other thing to really watch out for too is the Iowa Girls Union does have some strict rules on playing against collegiate competition, and so where this has morphed in a lot of past years is you'll say, well, I mean, we not only should be getting college coaches to run training sessions, but why don't we just go scrimmage a team in the spring season, right? I mean, for this group of kids, it would be logical for them to go to a spring training at Grandview and places like that. For the Iowa Girls Union, though, if you do that, if you compete, if you even practice with the girls' college team, your eligibility is gone forever. So you got to look out for that. And so this has got to be something, I think, for you that's going to be, I mean, I would argue based on all of those factors, not just the piece I just talked about, if you're going to do this, I think it's a big decision you've got to be prepared to stick to for the rest of your time in high school. So
we can't talk any more about it because I think people's attention spans may be exhausted at this point, but we appreciate you listening this far, and if you have gotten to here, and I think it goes without saying that we're just trying to provide another perspective here because we really value the high school game and what we've seen it do for players over the years and what it's done for us, even though we may not have known it at the time. And so I think it's worth taking both sides to looking at both sides of the coin and really measuring it out. So I don't know, Matt, thank you for obviously all your research and the time you took to put some of this stuff together, but then also just having somebody that knows what's going on within the girls' game, and I think that's important. So Titan Tactician gives us a thumbs up. Seaver says goodbye. We'll see you guys soon. Maybe we got one more episode in before the end of the year, you think, Evan? Okay, sweet. Oh, Iowa Soccer Story coming up. See you guys.